So moving into a really old house was a very exciting but also slightly daunting process. I moved in over the fall, and for the first time I have a real dedicated studio space instead of the kitchen table or a corner of a room, and it was a really exciting process, but I found that I needed time to work in it and to actually figure out like what I needed because I didn't know. And I've learned that light and like movability are key for me. So everything is kind of set up on wheels so I can move it around in the space. I like to work on the floor and I like to work on tables. The light's also movable as well. So I guess I wouldn't have expected that. I thought I wanted something like cozy and homey that felt really domestic. But those are the things that I really care about. I like a lot of clean white wall space. I don't work on the wall, I don't work on an easel, but I really like to be able to put things up on a wall to reflect on them and look at them. I work kind of series based, so it's really helpful to have everything I'm working on kind of around me, but then to have that kind of big open empty space. And as far as like what makes or breaks, I have to have headphones. I have to have my phone on airplane mode. If I forget and I get a call or a text, I'm not able to ignore it. It just kind of like eats away at me. And I have to have an audiobook. That's been a constant for like 10 years. Audiobook all the way. It really helps me to focus and direct my thoughts, but to not overthink. So I thrive best on a morning a session and an afternoon session, unless the weather is just like 110% terrible. I start the day with a walk, a nice long walk with my dog in the morning, and then I like to get down into the studio for a few hours. That morning session is when I'm usually like really energized and I move really fast and I make a lot of quick decisions, and I'll take a break for a few hours and go back down again in the afternoon. And for me, that time is a little bit more like quiet, reflective, kind of slow moving, reacting to some of the decisions that I made. And then I also always end with a walk too. Like that, I think I would always need my studio to be at home. Home is a really inspiring space for me. It's where I feel safe and creative and reflective. But at the same time, there needs to be some sort of transition because there's no commute. Like my commute is just walking down to the basement. I need that kind of, I guess, that transition space. And it really helps me to think about like, what are my intentions for today? What are my intentions for tomorrow? How am I feeling? What am I trying to tap into right now? The Art History as Inspiration workshop I love because I tap into art history so much with the different classes I teach. Teaching on a small campus where you have these more intimate relationships with students, things just kind of seamlessly fit together so much. And it's definitely influenced what happens for me in the studio. I often like to touch on Baroque art with students of all levels because I find that it's really accessible when you look at composition and when you look at movement and expression. And for me, when I navigate space, I'm really thinking about how things can twist and turn and move and feel theatrical, and what's the dance that's happening in that thing that you're making. And so I always love to touch on that. And I found that with the workshop this past summer, there seemed to be a really strong connection to Lee Krasner's collage work. And in a really basic way, I touch on that with almost everything I do, because those collages were essentially a ripping up of the old to make something new. So she ripped up all of her old work, all of those things that she felt were her that were maybe unsuccessful or irrelevant, and made them into something new. And I love doing that with students. I love doing that in my own studio. And I think that that's something that kind of everyone can take with them. So I think those two things kind of filter into everything I do, either directly or indirectly. Overall, for teaching, the thing I'm really invested in, both looking at art history, movements, and artists, is how I can expose students to a variety of work. I find that, especially on a two-year college, most of my students are not art majors. Most of them do not have a lot of exposure to the art world. Most of them might not necessarily have a deep love of art. And I think whether you do or you don't, it's really about finding something that you respond to. And so the more that you can be exposed to, the more that you can find something that resonates with you, your background, what you're passionate about. I think meeting people where they're at is just like one of the most exciting things. And I love teaching because I love that one-on-one relationship and interaction with students. I think that the reason why I wanted to be a teacher was because I want to help people find their way. And I think that this is a great opportunity that, you know, we can't necessarily all be together in that way, but maybe we can create something like different or new or better. I think that for me as an artist, an opportunity like this would be great to be able to maybe see things from a different perspective, maybe consider possible meanings and interpretation, and just kind of get someone else's, you know, I think you're kind of working in your studio, you're plugging along and you're doing your own thing, and sometimes that can be really isolating. And so to be able to just kind of touch base with someone and be like, yes, you're on a roll, you got this, you know, you're ready to go. Or perhaps like, you know, if you're feeling stuck, how can we approach this from a new angle, from a new perspective? Because sometimes that's all you need. I know for me, when I'm in a rut, sometimes I just need someone to point out something really obvious because I'm so in it that I can't see it. And I really love engaging in those conversations. And I think also for me, the possibility of, you know, perhaps like multiple meetings with people to develop a relationship, to kind of help them over time or just kind of work with them over time. I think everybody might need something different, but I think those things are really exciting, especially right now when I'm not meeting with my students face to face, and to just, you know, kind of keep a conversation going. I also think there's a really great chance it's going to inspire me as well.